Welcome, welcome. Oh boy, do we have an economic beast of a game to show you today. It is Incorporated. Now, as CEOs of multinational corporations, our aim is to profit no matter what the cost in this economic global warfare. It's heavy, it plays 2 to 4, and it plays in the region of 80 to 180 minutes. And we can see the designer and the publisher there as well. Okay, buckle in and let's take a closer look. Today's run through is myself playing a 2-player game. I have got Big Brother, who will have the ability to look at the top outlook card, and they also get to make any decisions on there that need to be made. So I'm going to stash them under here. And I've got Fortress Derivatives, who their ability is to be the first player. Now you've got 4 meeples in a 2-player game. As you go 3-4-player games, those will reduce. I've got their starting shares here, and they've been placed across the board in the form of these asset cubes, and I've got a stash of these cubes just out of camera view, along with money and shares. Now these guys, you can see the shares they are invested in. They've got an S&P, which is the United States here. They've got a Euro, they've got some China, and they've got some Japan, the Nikkei, and they've got a share and investment in Brazil as well. So those are just stashed there. We've got 40 money to begin with, and these guys have a selection of investments across the board as well. Now what is going on? This is an economic battleground of the globe. On a global stage, you've got the large nations, United States and China there, and off there you've got Eurozone, Japan, Brazil, India. Now these large areas are where you can buy the shares, just kind of reminding you these are major players in the global environment. And then you've got all these minor states just around them where you can hopefully go through these arrows to move your investment and have the potential to profit from these various industries that hopefully will come into play and be popular. We've got these sliders at the bottom. We've got the balance of power, and this whole game is sort of torn between NATO in blue and the SCO, the sort of Chinese area, and this balance of power starts in NATO's favour, and that will probably fluctuate a lot during the game. So you can see China, for example, has that matching symbol, and NATO's are in these blue ones. You've got battlegrounds as well, which will hopefully turn into an affiliation state of your choice. We've got the global growth, which dictates how many payoff cards they're going to be, and the percent, which could potentially cause an economic downturn depending on the stress. And we've got the interest rates and the bonds as to how much you can attain and pay back at various times. And all of our rounds, not rounds, but part of a turn is detailed nicely here from 1 to 5, and there's 4 rounds. And I've chosen 4 outlook cards from the 10 in play, 10 to choose from, and they're randomly dealt, so there's a lot of variety from game to game. Right, kicking off then, we are at first going to do, number 1 is draw an outlook card. So Big Brother would draw this, that apply the effects. We've got an Asian economic miracle. So first thing, unlock a square both in China and India. Now currently they don't know what payoff cards are going to be in play, because that's the next thing we're going to do. So let's just say, they're looking at their investments now. It's ideal, you can play these or not, but if you have these tokens, which you keep aside for each of the industries you have, gives you a rough idea what you have in play and what decisions are going to manipulate that. So the red players are like, right, I'm into, where are we, red? They got tech mining, they got a bit of finance. They're going to go for more finance. So they take this cube off, which is a neutral sort of blocker, and that now brings into play potential for people to invest in finance there. And they've got to take 1 off India of their choice. Let's say they go for heavy. Okay, they're going to move global growth. Is going at 4. Started here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, 6% global growth. Interest rates are down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a big shame. That big shame. That is. It means we're not getting as much money for the bonds there. Stress is going at 1. Wowzers. A minor country in Asia affiliated with NATO changes affiliation. So the Reds are going to get to pick. They're going to take one of these tokens. It's going to be a minor one. And let's say, Reds here, maybe they want to turn, Korea into, well, no. Where are they? Maybe they do, yeah. Let's go. Korea is now affiliated with the SCO. Then the SCO gains 2 power. So what What an incredible start to the economic environment then. So that Outlook card is disposed of. We then choose, well, take the top payoff cards dependent on the global growth, which is at 9 cards. Wowzers, right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now there's 6 of each industry in this deck. In the industries are finance, tech, mining, heavy. We got energy, and I believe that's all. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5. There's one more hiding. Mining. Is it mining? Heavy. No. Anyway, there's 5 industries of 6 each. So we are going to reveal these. What have we got then? Well, there's a lot of cards here. So we got free finance. So that's probably the big one to go for this round. We got some tech. And let me just sort of stack all these. We've got 3 energy, 2 mining. So this gives everyone a really good idea as to what they are aiming for this round, because it's how you're going to profit from these industries. So let's say the reds are, well, the greens are at first then. So we've done number 1. We move over to investment. Now they get to buy / sell on the global stock market. So how can you do this? So you could either send one of your people out to one of these major markets where the actual shares for those states are bought and sold. And we're thinking, okay, we want to go for a bit of China. Oh, do we want China? We think finance. And where's the finance and energy? Maybe United States. We've got loads of finance there. We've got finance here. Energy sort of in Russia. Maybe we'll go and bid on a Russian, a share in Russia to monopolise on that energy maybe. Okay, so they are going to open up the bid. And what we're bidding on is one of these shares here. Now, there's only 2 Russian shares in the game for investment there. And they have to open a bid higher than 3. Well, 3 or higher. So they're going to go 5. And literally 2-player game. Next player's out, right, I'm going 8. Green's 9. Red's 10. Green says 12. Red's out. Passed. So green get to buy this for 12. So they take the share into their ownership. They also get to place a cube on any location there. So we're going to plonk it on that energy one. That's the perk of buying a share. We're going to pay our money then. Now that was probably dirt cheap. 12 was the bid. Then an interesting part of play. We reverse the bidding to sell a share in Russia if you have one. Now, in this case, the Reds do not have a share, so there's no bidding in reverse order. But if there was, let's say Reds had a share in Russia and they considered selling it, they're the only ones in there, so the bid would be 1 lower, so it's 12 for the winning bid, it'd be 11 they could sell it for. Now, in a 3-4 player game, this is more dynamic because people are going, right, I'll sell it for 11, 8, 9, 7, and then someone's like, yeah, I ain't going lower than that, so they'd sell that Russian share for 7. But these guys now have a bit of a monopoly here, so they leave their worker there, and the red player is up, so you go clockwise. It always starts with the green player because that's their special ability. They're thinking, right, where's the finance? I need to get into the USA and get one of those shares. Now, there are available shares there, and you can see there's several remaining here, and you can only really go there if there are shares available. They're going to open the bid up at 10, straight in. These guys are like, right, 11, 12, 14, 15 it's gone for to the Reds. They take one of these shares, add it to their portfolio, pay their money more importantly, and they place one of their cubes, their assets, on one of these of their choice. They're going to go finance. Now, the green player has a choice of the reverse bid. So it was 15 for the winning bid, so it goes down 1, so it's 14 if these guys want to sell, and they do have an S&P 500 share. They are touch and go. They're going to do that, so they're going to sell this one for 14. That goes back in the supply, and they take some money. I'm not thinking too hard on what's the best strategy here, folks. I'm just sort of trying to demonstrate how these mechanics work. Now, when you bought something, you place one down. When you sell something, you take one off. So we're going to take a heavy off, mainly because there's no heavy symbols there. We can maybe save our money to get in other industries where we can make more money from how the economy, well, the demand for certain resources is at this stage of the game, which is finance and energy. Okay, back over to green. Now, if they did want to pass, they could just place their all their individuals here, or if you want a private sale, so that was the public markets, you place one of your workers on tax havens, you get to now sell one of your shares to the other players. So you're not buying a share in one of these markets, you're selling. So just to give you a demonstration, maybe they bought this Russian share for, was it 11? And let's say 3-player, 4-player game, whatever it may be. They're like, right, I want to I'm going to open the bids out for this at a minimum of 12. And then the other player's like, that's too rich for me. No, you can keep it. So they've kind of essentially missed out on the go then because no one wanted it. But if the bidding did get hot and people were like, yeah, 13, 15, 16, they would sell this to that player and that player would hand the money straight to the player who sold it. And interestingly, the person who bought it gets to take one of these counters off of their choice from the player they bought it from. So here, energy doesn't really make a big difference. But if it was from China and it was a Chinese share sold from the Reds, they could either choose from tech or mining and replace it with one of their shares. Or they could just put one of their cubes on one of the empty slots there if they wanted to. Okay, Reds are up. They'll do one more example of this. We're going to go for Brazil. And they're opening the bid out at 10. Greens are like 12. Maybe they don't want it. They're just bidding it up like any good old auction game. 13. It's Reds for 13. It was the last remaining share there. They placed one of their tokens on mine and they would pay their money. Now, money is the only thing that's secret in this game. Well, I've got too much money. I've done some mistake. What have we got? Anyway, ignore the money. They take 13 off. Boom. Now, money is secret. All your shares, all your counters and all your different areas you're invested in are open information. And money being secret is important because when you make these bids, it doesn't matter if you've got enough money or not. And you just keep bidding because you don't want to let on that you don't have enough money. And what I mean by that is, say Greens go, they went Brazil went on. Greens go to India and they've only got $5, but they bid 10. Reds are like, right, 12. They have no clue how much money these guys have. Well, maybe they'll have a rough idea from, a few things they've bought and sold. But it goes back to being like 14, right? It's theirs for 14. They don't have the money, but you can go and get financed by taking these bonds here at the current rate of 15. And that's why it's important. That's why I was a bit disappointed when it shot down 5 because I was hoping to get 20. So you can take one of these bonds anytime in stage 2 and 3. But caveat. First one you take, fine, you get 15. But every one you take thereafter, you're going to knock off one from the revenue received, well, not revenue, but the loan funds you receive for this bond, for each one you already have. So, yep, I take 15. If I already had one, I would only get 14. If I had 2 already, I would get 13. So bear that in mind. So that's how you can get extra capital to really take part in that in auction if you're low on funds. Okay. Green went India. Where are we? Let's say they won and they paid their money. They've added a share and they put a token. Oh, well, why did they go there? They don't even want to get in the heavy industry. There's nothing out there at the moment. So hopefully on future rounds. Now, it might not necessarily be that you want to go here just to get these particular industries. It might be that you want to, in a later turn in competition, move to these minor countries if the arrows and the affiliation let you, which we'll go through more detail in a minute. Let's say Reds have had enough, they're going over to tax havens, they're finished, and Greens have finished as well. That is investment, folks. That's how you get these shares here, which is, the importance of that is going to be shown now in number 3, competition. So you take all your meeples back, and you are now competing over these areas. So what you do is you look at your shares and you take those cubes. So Greens, for example, have got 1 share in the United States. So just to the left, you put your asset. They've got 1 in Europe. We've got 1 in China. We've got 2 in India. And we've got 2 in Russia. Right, what have Reds got? So they managed to get an S&P, did they? And they got a Eurozone. They got 2 in China. And they got 1 in Japan. And actually, they had 2 in the United States. And they got 2 in Brazil. Starting with the green player then. We are competing. Now, what 4 things I believe it is. You can fight You can defend, you can expand, and you can pass. So what's fighting then? Fighting is how you're going to get these cubes into these particular territories so you are part of that industry. Or fighting may be taking on other opponents' areas that they're controlling. So let's give you a few examples. Green are up. Green are here. And they're just like, right, I'm just going to place it on an empty spot. And they're going to go for energy. Got energy because it's very competitive and there's some good payouts at the end, potentially. Back to reds then. No, 2 fights, sorry. They've done 1 fight. Now, I've also gone to energy, which I've just noticed is an R&D, which basically means that energy location is times 2. So it'll be 2 of them. But that may move depending on lobbying. And where are we now? So they've done 1 of their fighting. The second fight is, let's say, they're going to go and... they're going to call it there, folks. No. We're going to go finance. Boom. 2 fight done. Over to the red player. They are going to... Now, again, I'm not thinking strategically. There's a lot to process here. Let's say they're going to move. Can we move? Yes. So they're going to pay $1. So let's just say they paid the buck. You can move up to 2 things once or 1 thing twice. So let's show you movement then. So let's say they're in China. And they're probably going to keep 1 there because they're after this finance. So they want to get over to Indonesia because energy is really, doing well at the moment. There's a lot of demand. So they can go through this arrow and they can go here. Now they can go here because it's SCO affiliated, which is fine. But they don't place it in the energy box yet. You need to use the fight action to do that. This one, you can split your movement. It doesn't have to be from the same location. We're going to keep that one in finance. Maybe down here, yes. We're going to move from the United States to Latin America, and it's affiliated with NATO. That is fine. Now, you'll notice some of the arrows go, from the United States to the South Sea, and various, from the UK to Australia. So be mindful of where these arrows are going to and from. Okay, back to greens then. They are also going to spend $1. Boom, spent the $1, and they are moving. Oh, well, they can't go to this location because that's NATO, and this is SCO. Maybe they want to just cause a bit of bother. Well, they can only go here, actually. Okay. Maybe we're going to move both of our cubes here because you've got 2 movement, remember? So we're going to prevent those reds from maybe getting in the energy in Indonesia. So that was their go. Now, reds are back up and they're thinking, okay, I want to defend something. So where's greens sort of pushing for? Greens are up here. They may cause a bit of bother down and around, but there's no reds there. They probably haven't really got anything to defend. I'll give you an example here, which I'll manipulate it to show you how that works, which probably wouldn't be the case. So they're going to fight. They're going to move 1 in energy, and they're going to move... Oh, what we're going to do? We're going to move this Latin America. So they're going to fight. Over to greens. Now, greens would probably, they would take out this energy, and I'll give you a demo of that actually, but we won't play it through. So they're going to fight. Now, they want to take over this energy. So 1 cube is going to, 1 for 1, take out that red cube. Done. Out the game. The second fight is to come in there, and they've claimed it as theirs. So that's how you can take over opponents' locations, by fighting. You may also fight, let's say the reds are here. And the reds wanted to take out this tech. 1 for 1. They can't. You have to beat the greens that are left over there first. So they'd have to go 1 to 1 there, and that is done. Now, if it was the case that reds just had a bit more strength here, they go 1 to 1, then they'd go 1 to 1 on the green, and then they'd place their 1 in. But you can only do 2 fights, so it takes 2 actions to do that. So that's kind of giving you sort of demo of how fighting works there. Now, what shall they do? Let's say they are moving. They've paid $1. They're coming down to Iran, so you can come in war-torn nations, but you just can't leave them. And they're also, so that's why they couldn't leave here to here, but we're going to go this way to Central Asia through the arrows. Okay, so SCO is applied. That's done. Now, they probably would have taken out these guys, but I wanted to show you how defending works. Defending is taking one of your meeples, placing it there, and that's your go, defended. Now, let's say these guys are going to fight now. they have to fight either the meeple or if there's a cube there spare first, either of their choice. So this is basically, where's that for? I can't remember now. They're basically defending using this, so they can't just attack this straight away. So in this case, it's going to go 1 for 1, but they've got enough strength there to then destroy that one as well. So that's how using these meeples can help defend certain areas. Okay, and the last thing you can do is pass. And we've done expand, yeah, done defend. Okay, so let's just crack on. Then they're going to fight here, boom, boom, and they're going to put their one in there. Over to reds, they are, what we're going to do, we're going to go maybe fight energy there, because they don't want the opponent to have their foothold in that one. Greens are going to just fight to get in here. Reds are going to pay $1 to move, so they're going to come one in here. And I should add that these excess cubes are going to get removed at the end, so they can't go in there. Different affiliation, I think they're probably done. Anyone, maybe they move one in here. I'm just rushing this. And greens are up. Greens are going to come in finance as well. What else can greens do? I think greens are done. Red's just going to go, missed that finance there. And they're going to come in here. Let's just say that's done. I may have made a few movements that shouldn't have happened, but yeah, they've all pretty much fought over various locations. Any excess cubes are now removed. Now, if someone have in this case put a defender out and someone had attacked a defender, those go back to tax havens. So you can't keep reusing these as your defense. Okay, so these come back. That is competition for market share. Hopefully that made sense as to fighting over those different areas based on the outlook for this particular round. And you'll now go into lobbying. So what can we do in lobbying? There's several things here. We've got power plays. Now you can only go to each area once during a power play. So you've got these sort of little missiles. So we've got third world here. We've got Europe, we've got America, and we've got Asia. So let's just say the green players are going to go power play. You don't put your meeple here. You put it on one of them 4 areas, and they're going to go to Europe. I've not thought why. So somewhere in Europe, there is a battle zone. And here it is, Eastern Europe. And maybe the Greens want to convert that to NATO. So they're going to basically roll the dice. And let's just give you a demo here. It's a 5. So this is the strength of Eastern Europe. It's a 4. You're now going to add onto that 5, 1, because it's currently the world is in favour of NATO. So it's going to be a number 6. These guys have got 4 plus. The opposition of SCO, that particular area, has +1 for SCO. So 5 is the outcome. We've beat it. So we had 6 versus the 5. We get to change the affiliation there, and we've turned it into NATO. We then have the task of choosing the next battle zone in Europe. And because, where are we? That's gone. Looks like it's Russia. Yeah, Russia, believe it or not. Okay, so that's the next battle zone, which is very thematically fitting with what's going on at the moment, I dare say. So, okay, so they have to choose the loser of that particular battle. So in this case, NATO won, so SCO the loser. So the new battleground is there. Now, interestingly, the player who undertook that, so Greens in this case, if they won it, they get to place one of their cubes down. If an opponent was already there for some reason, and they could just replace that and take that back. If you ever get a 1, you automatically lose. If you get a 6, you automatically win. Now, these minor countries, you're literally moving the battleground on. If one of these major countries falls, then there's some big repercussions. These cubes will all remove. Anyone in Russia who has Russian shares, those shares get removed from the game. And that area then, there's no battleground to be fought because it's kind of dominated by one particular type. So that's one example of how that could go down. Now let's just say the Greens wanted that to be an SCO. So they would roll the dice. It's a 5, plus the 1 here for SCO is 6. And NATO's strength is currently 1, plus the 4 is 5. So again, these guys would win it and they turn it to SCO.
And the battleground would then have to be to the loser. So it would be a NATO site that would have the battleground. So the player, when it would pick, let's say they go Scandinavia, and they place their cube down here. So that's kind of an example of how this sort of affiliation changes hand through these power plays. And you can go, once a player's gone to here, that's it for this round. Someone else could come to America. Same player could go to America on a future turn. And that's how you're going to manipulate these areas across the board. Okay, second thing you could do is go to tax havens. So let's say Reds, they come to tax havens. Now they take one of these cubes with them. Now, why do you want to do that? So on the previous round competition, you saw how we attained those cubes on the various areas depending on how many shares we had, and we moved them through costs. Now, maybe you are, you just haven't got any shares in China or Japan, but you really want to establish an influence there. You can come to tax havens, and on the next round, which is when you get back around to competition, your worker will have gone, you can move this cube over to any location on the board with that cost of $1 as usual. So you could move it over to Japan to then do some fighting and come in a location. So that's what tax havens is all about. And also, if you have a cube there, if you do decide to fight and you're the first in the game, you can actually pinch this finance spot, which is really nice. Now, technically speaking, tax havens, there's never any fighting that occurs there. So, if green comes here as well and there's a green cube, you never get to fight. So the first player to get finance will own that for the rest of the game. So let's say we've gone to tax havens, we've put a cube there. Green's up. What else can we do then? Now, tax havens, any player can go there as many times as they want. Central banks, you can either move the interest rates, which are here, either way by 2, or the stress by 2 in either direction. So maybe Reds are going to come here, central banks, and you can see power plays and tax havens. You can go as many times as you want. Power plays is only 4 locations. Central banks is once. You place your meeple here, and they are going to increase the interest rate by 2. They could have reduced this by 2 as well if they wanted. Budget then is about moving the global growth. Greens are going to go there just for demonstration. Now you can either move it down and make global growth slower, or increase it to make it better. So let's say if they went down, you then get to discard one of these cards here of your choice. Wow, that's massive, because let's say these guys were not invested in energy, but these guys were. Good word, they're just taking energy off. If you increase it, however, you get to take the top payoff card and you will add that. So now heavy is in the mix. So that's what budget can allow you to do. R&D then, if someone comes here, you get to move this. So that player who was reliant on energy, I'm sure there was a cube on there a minute ago. But anyway, you get to move this to a country with level 5 only. And you can then go, right, I'm placing it here. And I'm putting it on tech. So now the red player has 2 tech icons for that location. And the final area, which let's say green, subsidies. So you can take the top 3 cards of the payoff and you can replace one of these with one of these. So maybe you're like, right, I don't want those players to profit from finance. That goes in the discard pile and we're replacing it with mining. Okay, then you discard all these cards. Now, once this deck is run through, you just recycle them and form a new deck there. And that's all the action. So each player keeps going. Maybe these guys go back to power play. They come over to America and they're like, right, Brazil, I want to roll the dice and see what happens there. Once everyone has played, you literally go over to the final phase, which is earnings. And you are going to check to see, firstly, if there is a crisis. Now, in a free-player game, the giant squid would come into play here because you can see the blue die matches them, and they get to choose some of the outcomes if that happens. Now, what do we do then? What do we mean by crisis? So at the moment, you're going to look what the stress level is, +2, and you're going to look at global growth, which is on 7%. Wow, so 7 plus 2 is 9, and this is a 12-sided dice, if I believe. So, if it's equal or higher, the economy is stable. But it's getting pretty hot out there. Global growth is running adrift. We're rolling. It's a 6. So 7 plus the 2 is 9. It's lower, folks. The economy has been hit. So whatever the difference is, so 9 minus the 6 is 3. The giant squid player would do this normally, but it's only a 2-player set. So, firstly, we go down 3 spots here. 1, 2, 3. On the growth, We then go down on the interest rates as well. So we go 1, 2, 3. So basically, government fiscal policies are potentially trying to get more money out there to make the economy hotter. Growth has slowed down, and then we reduce the stress back to zero. Stress is slightly come off the economy there. Next thing we do is in a 2-player game, you're going to shuffle these up face down, and you're removing, in this case, 3 cards, because we move 3. The difference is 3 between the dice outcome and that one. So 1, 2, 3 are gone, and you can see how the market demand can look very different after that sort of impact on the global situation. And that, folks, was the stress level. Check to see if there's a crisis. Now, the giant squid player would have got to pick which 3 would have gone from those. So very powerful play there. We then go into earnings. So we're going to basically see how the market stands here in demand. And depending on the industries you're in, you're going to get $1 for each one. Now, I'd highly recommend using these. I kind of haven't represented them here because there's just a bit too many things in play. But let's say, what have we got? The red player here had 2 finance. Well, they've got loads out there, but you've got, say, 2 finance, a heavy, and we've got a couple of energy. But that should represent everything on the board. So reds would have a tech, a finance, another finance, an energy, a mine, and a heavy and energy. So loads of different industries. But just to represent here, I'll show you. So at the end, they're going to get, you can see there's 1 energy. They have got energy, so they're going to get 1 times the 2 is $2. Blues, they've got no tech. Greens, they've got 2 out there, times the 2, that's $4. Mining, they've got no mining, so they're going to get 0 for that. Now, this heavy, even though we've got it, there's no demand for heavy industry, so we're getting nothing for that. Now, if you did have the majority of one of these stacked, let's say you had 4 and the other player had 2, you get a bonus. Now, in a 2-player game, it's a bonus of $1, and it's more in a 3-4-player game. So you take all your earnings, boom. And you then have to pay interest on any of these bonds you had. So it's going to be $1 for each bond certificate. And at that moment, you get a chance to pay off those bonds after you've paid your interest. Now, if you took your bonds out at $20, $19, you've got a lot of money to invest in shares and what have you. You may decide if the economy is sitting here, you could pay those bonds back at 14. So you've actually sort of profited, which is, if you've done that quite quickly, a turnaround, you've only paid $1, $2 in interest. You're actually making money off the bond market there, which is fascinating. These then get discarded, and you've literally finished 1 round. Now, a few things then. Yeah, I've already said you can take a loan at any time during round 2 and stages 2 and 3 here, and you can only pay them back after your interest in level 5. We literally go back around, you take all your dudes back here, and we leave those cubes there, bear in mind, because that will come into play for this next round. I'll just move all these tiles out of the way. Now, be mindful that those tiles, if you do use them, as people buying or selling or things change, just really keep on top of them. At the end of the round, I like to, in my place, sort of just move them all to a side and get the other opponent to read out what you have your assets in, and then just take them back, and then it's kind of accurate, because they really are important in determining what your earnings are. And that is it, folks. I'm going to sort of call it there, but literally you take the next Outlook card, and bear in mind, Big Brother would have had access to look at this privately throughout that round there, so they are planning as to what's happening next, whereas these guys have the benefit of being first player. Do the Outlook, do what it says, do your investment, getting those shares and auctioning and reverse bidding to shift some of these for capital. Get your competition to take area control here. Now, few strategy, if you have too many cubes there and it's already populated, where are those cubes going to go? So you maybe want to consider selling these beforehand. Get back to your lobby where you get to do a lot of interesting, varying the growth, the interest rates, whatever you can do to manipulate things in your favour. And then you do the earnings. Now, after these 4 rounds then, on the 5th round, you can't take a card, so that triggers game end. You are going to get $5 for each cube you have on one of these squares. So at the moment you can see green's getting 5 for that, and so on. And if you were the leader in a particular industry, so say you had the most heavy tiles, you are going to get a $5 bonus in a 2-player game as well, as it's $10 usually in 3-4 players. You will then have to pay your bond back, and as many bonds you got, you're paying them back at $20. So you want to pay them off early, otherwise you're paying top dollar $20 back. And that is it. It's literally, you add up all your cash. The player with the most money is the winner. Now, interestingly, you don't get money for your shares at the end. These were just a tool as your investment in various areas to get the cubes out, to get the profits from those industries you have invested in, because there is no stock market where you're selling and buying them. It's just that money spent and hopefully attained through the investment stage of competing for those with your fellow players. There we go, folks. If you get a chance to play this and you love those heavy simulation economic games, give this one a go.